I got it. It's over. And I'm not exactly happy about it. Why am I not happy? Let's start there. Well, after this race, I am now 0 for 2. 0 for 2 with races and PR attempts. This one was so far above my PR that it wouldn't, like, I'm surprised. I actually almost didn't even finish. So today is May 2nd. It's been a week since the race, and I wanted to take some time to look at the data, look at everything, just kind of get my mental bearings back, if you will, get my head right before I reviewed this. Because if I had done this video the day after the race, or within a couple days after the race, it probably would have been a lot worse. Okay, so let's go pre-race, because I recorded a bunch of the carb loading stuff, but I didn't make a carb loading video, and I'm kind of glad. I recorded basically nothing in Nashville. Not on purpose. It was just, everything was just kind of like going and flowing, and it was just really boring. And then when I got the GoPro during the race, I hit record the first time, and it said the memory card was full. And I was like, what the hell? I don't even know what's on the memory card. But between that, as the race was starting, I put my phone in airplane mode, and I couldn't get a connection from my watch. So the first half a mile, I didn't have my paces or anything on the watch. I couldn't see anything. And then I auto-lapped it early. It was just like the first half mile or so in Nashville was kind of a cluster. So I'm kind of glad I didn't have to worry about recording anything. But let's rewind. I started carb loading. Carb load went well. I was only doing about 350 to 450 grams of carbs. The first day, I was actually down a half a pound. I know Dom said don't gain 10 pounds. Okay, cool. I was down a half a pound. I went up a couple pounds. By the day I left for Nashville, Friday morning, I was like up 4.5 pounds total. Not too bad. Got to Nashville, perfectly fine. No issues with the flight. Got to the room, did the check-in thing, ran into a teammate of ours. Got back to the hotel, ate, got the stuff I needed for the morning, you know, the oatmeal. I made sure I had a spoon, made sure I was able to get water in the morning. All this is the good stuff. Got some electrolytes for that night, for the morning. I got everything I needed to get. Went to Broadway, had some dinner, nothing too crazy. I think I had Cane's chicken, which probably, it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great. Didn't have any impact on my stomach on race day though. So everything went smooth. I was only staying a couple blocks from the start, so it's not like I had to worry about taking a drive or getting an Uber to the start line. It was just cool. I woke up hella early, and that was that. So going into race day, I was fine. Everything felt good. My legs felt fresh. My mind felt ready. I really couldn't say the prep was bad. I was confident going into this race. I knew the course layout. I thought I knew the course layout. And I was just ready to kind of go. Race morning, I apparently overestimated how much time it was going to take for me to get ready. I was up at 4 a.m. Slept fine. I think I got like 5.5 hours of sleep. Was up at 4. Did my caffeine, 300 milligrams of caffeine. I started eating around like 6, but I got everything ready. Went to the bathroom. I was feeling pretty good. Got dressed. I was basically ready to go by 5:30, even though I didn't start eating till 6. Race didn't start till 7:30. That was that. I took the Imodium around 6:15-ish or 6:30-ish. I had a wonderful time waiting for that to really kind of take shape or, kick in. But around 6:30, I headed over to the start line. I was feeling, again, my legs felt fresh. I had 2 water bottles. Each water bottle had about 20 ounces of G1M with 3 scoops of G1M. So each bottle had 260 calories, 80 or 240 calories with 60 grams of carbs and 1,000 milligrams of sodium in each bottle. I thought that would be good for the half marathon. One bottle was more than enough, more than sufficient. I had 8 Martin gels. One of them was for pre-race. So my plan was early on, the first like 3 gels I'd take every 30 minutes, and then as the race progressed, I would go every 35, every 40, to the point where I was taking like 1 gel every 40 or 45 minutes. I probably could have done that in reverse, where I took the first one at 40 and then shortened my intervals as my glycogen depleted that much faster. I just kind of try to stay on top of it. But, you know, we'll get into that. My breakfast was, I had 2 cups of oatmeal, which was about 90, maybe what, 60 or 70 to 90 grams of carbs. I had 2 Gator Lights, 2 of those bottles, which I don't know how much carb is in those. I don't think there's a whole lot, but I know there's about total about 980 milligrams of sodium. So I preloaded my sodium. I had everything going. I had the carbs. I was good. I was, again, feeling confident going into this. Walked outside the hotel, and it was a little humid. It was in like the upper 60s at 7 a.m., you know, like 6:30, 7 a.m., kind of humid. I'm not used to humidity yet, which probably kicked my butt a little bit, but I mean, can't really help that. Got to the start line, waited, you know, just as soon as I get to the start line, go to the corral, get in line for the bathroom one last time. Did that, everything was good. Stopped chatting, took my phone and put it in airplane mode. Didn't realize that my watch was going to disable its connection, so it couldn't get a connection until after like a half mile, like whatever. Race started at 7:20. By the time I got to the corral, it was maybe 7:30. Not even 7:30. So they were moving pretty quick. I was corral 7. First half mile, my goal was, because I know the first part of the course was fairly hilly. Now, before we get into that, this is the course profile, the elevation profile that Rock and Roll provides. Doesn't look super intimidating. This is the course profile that my Garmin picked up. It's a little different. It's a little bit more intense. If you look at it and you try to compare them, like, holy shit, that is a discrepancy. Like there's a lot of differences in these as far as the sharpness of the hills. You know, so I was going off the Rock and Roll one. My goal was the first 10 miles or so, 10 to 12 miles, just keep the pace between 9:45 and 10:05. If I could keep my pace somewhere in that range early on, by the time I got to the second half, when the hills were supposed to be a little bit less, I could then slowly pick up my progression. This way, hanging around 10-minute miles and 9:45 to 10:05 would be controlled, very controlled, to the point where I could do that for hours on end. At least here I was able to run those paces for a long time, and that worked for the first 10 miles. I actually kept my paces around like 10:05 to 10 minutes. I think there was like parts of it that were like might have crept into the 9s, like the 9:50s, but for the most part, it was like 10, 10:05, 10:07, somewhere in there. And I'll put my laps in here, and keep in mind, these are a little bit off. But at the end of the day, they were around the 10s, which is where I wanted them. I was feeling good. I hit mile 10, and it was warm. It felt really warm. Mile 11 was a climb. The whole mile was a uphill climb. And I got to about halfway up the hill, and I was like, I got to walk this one. This is starting to kill me. Somewhere around 12 or 13, electrolytes, and I was using water and electrolytes there. My gels were going down fine, but the cramps started to kick in. So somehow, I guess I was under sodium, under electrolyting, underdosing the electrolytes on that run. The humidity in the hills must have really kicked my ass, because by mile like 10 to 12, I started cramping, and not my legs. The first thing to cramp was my right lat, my right lower lat, my pec, my traps, my triceps. They were the first things to cramp. I had that side sticker right here that just ate me alive for like 6 miles. Could not get that out for a while. But again, it was early. I was keeping my pace controlled. Then the legs, the quads, the calves started to cramp. So once I felt the cramps started to build up on the legs, I had to just kind of like walk it out. And then so like it became a run walk thing, and my run pace became a lot slower than my walk pace at times. Like it became the Ironman shuffle. Like towards the end of an Ironman, if you're dying, you just like you're barely moving your feet. Like you could almost walk faster at times. But as we got to the second half of the course, it was such a struggle for me to even start running, because I'd get maybe 30 to 40 seconds in and the cramps would start. And like my quads I'd feel them getting cramped. And I don't know if it was due to a lack of electrolytes or lack of fitness. I'm not sure. I know some running coaches will say, well, you don't cramp because of electrolytes, you cramp because of fitness or lack thereof. And I'm like, okay, cool, that's great. But which one was it? You know, by mile 19, I was basically out of electrolytes, and I had just taken my last gel. No, not even 19, maybe a little bit before that. No, it might have been 19, around 4 hours. I was planning for a 4.5 hour run. I had enough nutrition for a 4.5 hour run. So I had to use water at the aid stations. I didn't trust the Mortal Hydration because I had not trained with it. Nothing new on race day. But at this point, I probably should have. Looking back, I probably should have said screw it and just started taking 2-3 cups of Mortal Hydration every aid station. But towards the end, by the time I was getting to the aid station, they had no food. So I was out of electrolytes. I was out of carbs. And between 19 and 23, I don't think I had any food. I had nothing, just water, and like I'm hoping for the best. I was hoping to be able to push through a little bit. It didn't work. By the time I hit 23, I was playing runner's math. I'm at this pace. I have this many miles to go. I'm at this time. Will I finish? I was calculating probably about 17 to 18 minute miles, and I knew it was going to be like super close, if at all. And then you just pressed forward. You just kept on going. I knew that I could not afford to stop for any reason, no matter whether it be to stretch, to kind of, stretch out my calves, to get something, to tie my shoe. I could not stop for anything. At like mile 24, I ran past an aid station. I was like, I need carbs. And the lady's like, there might be something across the street. There was nothing at that. So she ran across the street real quick. I stopped for maybe 25 seconds. She come back with a banana. I ate half the banana and said, as I'm running, and I said, nope, this is not going to work. My stomach you could tell, was automatically not agreeing with the banana. The simplest of things, the potassium, the carbohydrate, the sugars. My stomach was at this point not digesting anything. So I threw the rest of the banana away, kept on going, turned a corner, made the finish line, 5:58:01. I heard there was a 6 hour cutoff. I barely made the cutoff, less than 2 minutes away from the cutoff. I walked the 30 feet from the finish line to where the barrier was. And I was getting like I was the last 5 miles, but it got super worse. The tunnel vision and the blurred vision and the dizziness. So I sat on the barrier, the jersey wall, and within 15, 20 seconds, whatever was left in my stomach, whether it be water, the banana, it just started coming out. After about the 6th time I puked, the medical people were like, yo, are you okay? Are you dizzy? Put me in a wheelchair, took me over to the medical station, gave me extra electrolytes, and some carbs, some Gatorade, and then an ice pack for my neck and to just try to cool me down because I was getting dizzy. At that point, it took me about 15 minutes sitting there before I was like, I felt okay. And then I had to walk 2 miles back to my hotel. I felt fine afterwards. I was able to eat dinner. I think I had something simple. I had lunch. I had like Jimmy John's for lunch. It took me a while to eat it, but I had Jimmy John's for lunch. I, straight cola after that just because I wanted the carbs, the sugars, the sodium. And then I just laid up in bed. I can honestly say that race has me questioning whether or not I should run another marathon at all, ever again. it was brutal. Now, I've seen other videos, other reels, a lot of posts saying that course was brutal. The hills, the heat, the humidity was insane. When you look at ChatGPT, when I plug everything into ChatGPT, the elevation chart, the temperature, my paces, all of those things, what I felt the day, what my nutrition was pre, during, etc. Basically, what ChatGPT, now again, grain of salt with this one, but what ChatGPT said was, the heat and humid in hills burned through my glycogen faster than I was prepared for. When I ran out of nutrition, after that, my body was basically going into shutdown mode because I had no glycogen. So when my glycogen was tapped, my body was like starting to shut down at this point, which explains the lack of being able to digest the banana. But yeah, the heat, the hills, the humidity basically burned through my glycogen faster than I was anticipating. But it wasn't due to me coming out of the gate too hot. I actually was like I said, I was very controlled with my paces. You know, I'm looking at, if you look at my Training Peaks paces now, 10, 10, 10, 946, 950, 10. I mean, most of these are up until lap 11, the wheels were still on. After lap 12, 13s, 12s, 15s, 16s, 17s. I mean, that's where everything kind of fell apart. But yeah, so it wasn't because I ran too fast. It wasn't because I didn't follow my plan. It was legitimately likely because the heat, humidity, hills, all burned through all impacted my body burning calories that much more, and I didn't have enough calories on hand to keep up with that, and I didn't front load enough to keep up to prepare for that because who knew? And I only had enough space on my beam to carry so much. This was the first marathon I've run since the initial one where I didn't have somebody on course to give me additional nutrition. So I had to carry everything on my own. I had 2 water bottles, 8 gels pinned to my body, and I carried what I could carry, and that was it. So could I have added a 4th scoop of G1M to each bottle? Probably. That would have given me more electrolytes, 20 grams carbs per bottle more. Cool. Could I have carried more gels? Yes. Would that have helped? I don't know. Could I have used a different carb source on the run? Maybe, nerd clusters or jelly beans or something? Maybe. Would that have helped? I don't know. Again, nothing new on race day. If you don't train with it, don't expect to race with it. So that's kind of where I'm at. Am I happy with it? No. I'm 0 for 2 on this challenge. I was worse on this marathon than I should have been, period. But I still have 2 more races to finish this year. I'm about 3 weeks away from the Olympic triathlon. So I've got to do open water swims. I got to try to get in the open water next week at some point. But next Sunday, the 10th, I go to Nashville for a whole week. I don't come home till Saturday night. So if I don't get in the open water on the 10th, before the 10th, I got to do it by the 17th. Because the following Monday, the 25th, is the race. Again, it's only Olympic. But then I only have 2 weeks after that to go open water until Pennsylvania. So I've got 2 races, less than 3 weeks apart. And I've got 3 weeks until the first one. So I'm 6 weeks away from Pennsylvania. I am 3 weeks away from Austin. And I got to do better. At least I know I can do 13 miles controlled. I can do that. But yeah, the marathon, I'm questioning retiring from the marathon. I seriously am. Maybe I'll give myself one more shot. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year. I'll do another marathon, but it'll be a cooler weather marathon. So it'll either be early in a cooler spot or later, September, October, November in a cold spot, just to avoid the heat. And I may do the BPN route and go with a flat or downhill course. There's a marathon in Pennsylvania that I saw that's in September. That is a Boston qualifying course, and it's a downhill. It is a net negative elevation course. So maybe next year I do that one. I'm not gonna put anything on the schedule after Pennsylvania this year, but maybe next year. We'll see. We shall see. But yeah, that's all I've got today on this video. Again, I wish my GoPro wasn't full, but I'm kind of glad it wasn't. I wish I would have recorded more in Nashville, but I'm glad I didn't. At this point, there's really nothing to brag about. This race sucked. It was horrible. It was hot. I think it hit in like the mid 80s at some point, but with the humidity, it felt hotter than that. But I don't know. But it was bad. So, what you gonna do? At least maybe I can go 500 on this challenge. Give me 2 PRs. I was so close in Austin too. If that was a flat course, I would have got the half marathon. But I didn't. So we'll see. All right. Thanks for following along. I'll see you in the next one.